Hey guys, welcome to Team Death Slinger. My name is Peter, and today we're going to be talking about my EX4 ChaosGallantmon deck. BT12 is already out, and that means it's time to start looking towards the future and playtesting options for EX4, which happens to have some Guilmon support that I'm super excited for. This deck is a bit of a mixed profile. You're not going to be looking to exclusively mill out your opponent, but you're going to have a lot of aggressive top-end play with this BT5 ChaosGallantmon that you can look forward to. If you're a fan of this card like I am, and you've been struggling to find a good deck to play him in, then stick around and we can dive right into the deck profile. For eggs in this deck, we're going to be running 4 copies of BT5 Gigimon. A lot of people like the Demi-Meramon for purple Guilmon mill so far, but I'm a bigger fan of this Gigimon. I feel like you already mill well enough that you don't need the extra trash buildup, and the 2k inheritable bonus is really nice for our top end because it allows us to safely check over security over most of the megas in the game. It also lets us ignore the 1-cost Digivolution for some of our rookies, which we can look at next. Starting with our rookies, we're going to have 4 copies of BT5 Guilmon. This card is just a super solid option for going into ChaosGallantmon without passing turn because of the memory you gain back from deleting him. It also functions as another Guilmon name in purple for our champions to go on top of, which means we get to play them for cheaper, which is just really nice in this deck. Next, we're going to go for 4 copies of EX3 Guilmon. This Guilmon goes for 0 on top of Gigimon, and it's on deletion will pop a Floodgate rookie or mill us 2 cards. It's honestly a really strong rookie to just swing in with for chip damage, and it can set you up to grab pieces later on if you need to. Lastly, we're going to go with 4 copies of the EX4 Guilmon. This Guilmon is also 0 on top of Gigimon, so we don't have to worry about paying 1 to Digivolve, and it gains Rush on play if you and your opponent have a combined 20 cards in trash. It's a really solid option to just hard play later in the game and swing Rush 4 game, as well as being one of those keywords for our champions to go on top of. So that'll be it for our rookies. Now, for champions, we're going to start with 4 copies of EX3 Growlmon. This card is when Digivolving, you pop a Floodgate or get to mill 2 cards. It's a super good card for denying chip damage, as well as getting your trash set up for later if you get to mill the 2 cards. It's also a really important piece of our top end combo because of its inheritable, which is going to let us delete another Digimon when we attack to gain security attack +1. Then we're going to go 4 copies of the new EX4 BlackGrowlmon. This card, when Digivolving, mills 2 cards, and then you get to add back a Guilmon family card from trash to hand. The nice thing is that this will grab almost any one of our main combo pieces and makes it so that we don't have to worry about milling any of our important pieces. The inheritable will also just grab you something back if you lose your stack. It's a really nice piece of support for this mill engine in particular. Then we're going to get a little weird with 2 copies of Dobermon and a single copy of Loweemon. The Dober is just to recover tamers when we need them, and also to have something to pull us out of a tough spot. If we have to, we can go into it for 2 and get some cards in trash. Otherwise, we can look to hard play it early and start getting some chip or mill down. The Loweemon is just there to hybrid for game. Always nice to have, and we'll be able to recover tamers, like I said, with the Dobermon if we have to. So that will be it for our champions. Moving on to our ultimate Digimon, we're going to be running 4 copies of EX3 WarGrowlmon. This guy's our bread and butter ultimate. We almost always want to see him going up the stack. We want him to mill into Guilmon for free every time. Originally, I also really liked that he could play out a Tocado for us, but in practice, I never chose him over a body on board, so I cut it. Then we're going to have the new EX4 BlackWarGrowlmon. This guy has potential to be really strong removal later in the game, but early on, we really only play him to mill out cards or pop Floodgate rookies. He definitely has some moments of greatness when you're at the end of the game, and there's lots of cards to add on to his effect, but I only run 3 copies because the other WarGrowlmon is just better most of the time, unless you're, super late into the game. So that's it for our ultimates. Now for the fun part. For mega levels, we have 4 copies of BT5 ChaosGallantmon. He is a 4 cost. When Digivolving, you sack one of your Digimon to pop a level 5 or lower, and then once per turn, on your turn, you can play a rookie when one of your Digimon is deleted. The second half of that effect is what we really care about because it combos really nicely with our EX3 Growlmon for security +1 and the BT5 Guilmon to gain a memory back. Then we're going to run 2 copies of the new EX4 ChaosGallantmon. He has on play, we pop a 7k, and we add 2k to that number for every 10 cards in your combined trash. And then from trash effect, where at the end of your turn, you can sack a Gallantmon to play him out for free. He Digivolves for 4, but we don't really care about that because we're never going to Digivolve into this guy. We want him in trash so that we can pop the enemy boss monster that potentially wins game for our opponent. It's awesome support for this archetype for sure, and it really enables you to do a lot with this deck. Lastly, we're going to go 2 copies of Beelzemon Blast Mode from the Beelzemon starter deck. This card is absolutely nuts in any deck that wants to mill. If you mill him, you pop a level 3, and it goes up a level for every 10 cards in your trash. And then when digivolving, you can unsuspend, and if you have 20 in trash, you get 3 memory back. So basically, as long as you have 20 cards in trash, you can unsuspend and swing for 1, which is super good in this deck because we're looking for that security bonus on ChaosGallantmon in the first place, and then going into this on top of that gives us a potential 4 checks in 1 turn. So that is going to be it for our top end. Now looking at options, we're going to be starting with 4 copies of Death Slinger. It's just mandatory in any mill deck. If you don't know what this card does, you pay 4 to delete a level 4, and then add 1 to the level for every 10 cards in trash, and gain a memory if you mill it. It's very, very good when milled. It's very good in security, and it's very good in hand. Next, I run 2 copies of Rivals Barrage. This just helps you find your pieces, and it helps you add back a piece when it's milled. Its security effect is also fantastic. We love having those security bombs that just kind of throw a wrench in your opponent's plan. And lastly, we're going to go 1 copy of Death the Cannon. You could run a 3rd Rivals Barrage in this slot, but I find myself not always wanting to delete the highest level Digimon on board. And I also find that having a guaranteed removal card once you mill it is nice. And again, this is also fantastic in security. We really, really want to discourage our opponent from swinging into us and potentially hitting one of these cards. So that is it for our options in this deck. Finally, for Tamers, we're going to run 2 copies of BT2 Matt Ishida. It's a very nice card that grabs you a piece back and then is a standard memory tamer. It's important to have enough memory to hit our top end in this deck, so if we can, we want to play that card as soon as we can. Then we're going to run 3 copies of starter deck Ai Mako. This is actually what I wound up replacing Takata with, and I wasn't really sure about it until I tried it. When you scry, the only thing you can grab back is the Beelzemon Blast Mode, which sucks, but you can fix your mills by top decking a Death Slinger or Rivals Barrage on the Digivolve, and then mill them off for the effects that you want. It also gets you a memory back, which compensates for ChaosGallantmon taking 1 extra memory to Digivolve into, as well as being another target for that Loweemon that we showed off earlier, which you can always grab with Rivals Barrage. So that's it for Tamers, and with that, we are done with the actual deck profile. Next, I just want to cover some tech options for this deck in case you have some possible changes that you're interested in making. So for tech options in this deck, the first one I want to mention is that you could definitely drop the BT5 Guilmon to 2, and then replace the 2 that you dropped for Gazimon or Psychmon. I really didn't like the idea of it because I think you would always be looking to hard play those cards or go into Dober on top of them. Just because Digivolving into Growlmon on top of Gazi or Psych costs an extra memory. And if you're going to Digivolve Dober on top of them anyways, they're not really doing their job as Floodgate rookies. Another option I want to mention is dropping the Dobermons here for 2 BT5 BlackGrowlmons if you want to get really, really aggressive and you're not worried about fishing for the other pieces that you could be missing. Lastly, if you don't care at all about BT5 ChaosGallantmon, EX2 Gigimon is just better for this deck. It's got a more flexible deletion threshold and the ability to spit out a Guilmon on deletion, which is just better than this. This card can be extremely slow. It can be really hard to actually pop something with it, and then you kind of get stuck in an awkward spot. So at the very worst, EX2 Gigimon is just more flexible, gives you something back when it dies, and it's also treated as a ChaosGallantmon, so you can grab it back with your pieces and then still sack it for the EX4 ChaosGallantmon. BT5 Gigimon is also an option for a more hardcore mill strategy, but I feel like that's just a whole other deck in its own sense. So that's really it as far as tech options, and that's going to wrap up the entire deck list portion of the video. Stay tuned for our turn 1 options and an example of our top end combo. Usually I want to open up with the EX3 Guilmon in Raising, mostly because I never want to have to hard play it. He does cost 4 instead of 3, so I prioritize putting him down in the back. In reality, any rookie's fine. Obviously, don't mulligan just because you don't have the rookie you want to start with. From this point, you have a couple of options that feel fine to play. Option 1 is to hard play another rookie. This is good when you have BlackGrowlmon in hand because you can swing one of your rookies for chip next turn and then go into the BlackGrowlmon to recover some pieces. And this feels even better if one of your rookies is the EX3 Guilmon because if it dies, you'll get 2 mills off of this. You go into BlackGrowlmon, 2 more mills, and then you have a potential 5 options to grab back. Option 2 is to hard play any one of your 2 tamers. I personally would prioritize your memory tamer Matt, but if you want to hold it until you need to grab back an option, then you can definitely pick the Ai Mako instead. Usually tamers earlier than later will pay off better, so I like this play more than hard playing a second rookie. The last opening hand option that I want to consider is to just hard play a Dobermon and leave the rookie in raising. This is actually a super powerful option, even though it's more expensive, and it feels better when you go second because obviously you don't really like passing your opponent at 5. But if you have the BlackGrowlmon in hand to go on a rookie when you promote, you're going to have a potential 5 cards in trash to try and get a piece from the trash back with, and you get to fish for whatever you're missing. So if the Dobermon lives as well, you get to have more chip on your next turn. So as you can probably tell, most of my preferred turn 1 plays don't involve Digivolving and Raising, because this deck doesn't mill itself very fast. It's not like Beelzemon. 20 is your magic number for the Beelzemon combo, so you really need your Digivolving effects outside of the raising area. So we're going to look to prioritize any one of these options out in the front. Lastly, I want to show off our top end combo from this position. Now, this is a really common spot I found myself in during testing, so it's definitely not an unrealistic dream situation type of OTK combo. You'll have a stack with the Growlmon Inheritable in it, a Matt in play, and a BT5 Guilmon on board or in raising that you can promote to on board. So Matt is going to set us to 3 memory, and we will go into the ChaosGallantmon for 4, putting us to 1. Now we're going to pretend that the enemy has something for us to delete, so we delete our Guilmon in order to pop the enemy Digimon on board, and we're going to go back to 0. Then we can play back the Guilmon because of ChaosGallantmon's effect. Now we swing in our ChaosGallantmon. We're going to use the Growlmon Inheritable to delete our Guilmon again, which puts us at 1 memory, and we have 2 checks at 14,000 DP. This is going to clear most of the megas in the game like we talked about earlier because we're clearing that 13k DP threshold. Now we're going to pay 4, putting the enemy at 3, to go into Beelzemon Blast mode. In this example, we're going to pretend we have 20 cards in trash, so we get to unsuspend, and we get 3 memory back, continuing our turn. Now we can swing in for 2 checks again, because we got the security attack +1 from the Growlmon Inheritable, and this time we're going to be a 16k. Additionally, if you have extra memory because your tamer is playing greedy, you could go on to the hybrid on top of your tamer for a 5th check, and you can just kind of see how this is a really potentially powerful combo, and it's not extremely difficult to pull off either. I'm going to be ranking this deck as a solid B tier deck. The deck has a lot of potential with its powerful top-end combo, as well as its mill threat, which gives a good amount of flexibility and offensive pressure. That being said, the deck really struggles against a lot of decks that I would consider to be A tier. The deck can't cut through decks with multi-layers of protection like Examon, Ulforce, any Greymon variant, and it really struggles against heavy removal decks like Beelzemon, Mastemon, or Beelstar, because you swing for a lot of checks without protection. So at the end of the day, this really feels like a thoroughly casual deck with the potential to do some cool stuff, but unfortunately it's usually too little too late against stronger and faster decks. I still definitely recommend you give this deck a try if you're like me and ChaosGallantmon is your absolute favorite card, but try and temper your expectations and just have fun with it. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll be sure to post a deck list in the description. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.